Hi, welcome to Dead End Street. Tonight I'm joined again by Dr. Byrne,
Hey.
and
Mhm.
we're going to do a ranking for a band that we both are very fond of. We're very excited about doing this. Dare I say we're fans. But we're going to be ranking the discography of alt rock legends, Love and Rockets. The three remaining members outside of Peter Murphy of Bauhaus. Once Bauhaus disbanded, they broke off. Well, first Daniel and Kevin broke off into the Tones on Tail, and then after that, it became Love and Rockets. For all those who don't know the history, just letting you know. So we have 7 studio albums, and we planned on doing this for a bit, and then but we had the pleasure of seeing them live about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago here in Philly, and they were absolutely awesome. They were awesome, and I just got to say, I mean, like they were ageless. I mean, it was unbelievable. You couldn't
They
believe
look
you
the
were seeing
same.
them.
They look the same. Like
Yeah,
they did not like they look like they were like 30 years old or something. Like it's like how do you look that and their the outfits were fantastic. Their music, like their sound was like perfect. Like they didn't like the voices were yeah, it was excellent.
yeah, it was. The stage show was great, and I mean, they were brimming with attitude and confidence, and as they should be, because when they owned that place that night, they were great. Stage show was great. Light show,
Yeah.
um, you know, and God, honest to God, I think they were better last week than they were in the '90s. Like, I mean, I don't know. Is it possible? Is it? I mean, because I
I
mean,
don't
that's
know.
what
I
it
didn't
feels
see
like to
them
me.
live in the 90s, but they were
But,
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
and well, I mean, I love this band, and naturally, I learned of them first, I guess, like right at the end of high school, beginning of college. Um, First, found out about Bauhaus, and then went on through Peter Murphy solo stuff. I became familiar with first, and then Love and Rockets, then Tones on Tail, and then their various solo projects, which are all awesome. All 4 members of Bauhaus do awesome work, even when they're not around each other. And I mean, there's only one other band I can think of that all 4 members like that. Like every member is like that awesome on their own. And
Who's the
Beatles, I mean,
wow, wow, wow.
really, I mean, think about it. Is there another band that's for all 4 members were just as awesome without the other
Right.
3 or 4? And they, Fab Four, the Drab Four.
The trap floor. I like it. Uh,
Yeah. So when did you first learn about Love and Rockets? What's your
actually, I just learned about them with the good old "So Alive" song. So that was the
Mm,
first one I heard. Where I
most
don't even
people
know
did.
where I heard it. It was the
Most
big,
people did. Yeah, I mean, we were
but
what, 15 when that came out. So I mean,
yeah.
unless we
So
were
just,
listening to Love and Rockets when we were 10, then of course that's pretty much where we, you know.
but once I heard that, that was all you needed to know, and it was like, oh my god, this is like so cool, like so different than everything else you're hearing, and that's what pulled me in. And yeah, they're just fantastic. So good. And then just going through this again, just like re-listening, like getting ready for the concert. And then we were doing this and re-listening to all the songs was like so great because there's so many good songs.
Yeah, that they're legends. They absolutely are. All right, shall we do this?
Let's do it.
All
Are we
right.
starting with the last or starting with the end?
Yeah, let's start with the 7th. We'll go with whoever, with the least favorite, which if there is, I mean, it's hard to say there's a least, but something's got to be at the bottom.
Right.
So, all right, you want to go?
I can go. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. My least is, well, I really didn't actually like this one a lot, was Lift.
Okay.
I wasn't a big fan. It's just that techno-y kind of stuff. I just couldn't get into it as much as some of their other stuff. And I think too, I mean, I do appreciate that they change things. It's not like the same thing, which is great.
Mhm.
But I don't, that's just not really my thing, all that techno-y kind of thing. And some of the other stuff was like a little slower, but I don't know. It just had that, like, I'm kind of getting into that industrial thing a little bit. Like I felt like they were kind of getting into that a little more. And I don't know. That's just not my cup of tea.
Okay.
I'm not a
Um,
lifting.
let's see. Well, at my number 7, I went with Hot Trip to Heaven from 1994,
Yeah.
which was a major departure for them. I
Yeah.
like the record. I do. I like it. I thought it was daring to do at the time. Because if you think about it, a lot of bands who were around in 94, 95 were kind of doing what they were doing 5 years before or 6 years before. They could have just kept doing that.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And just rode the
Right.
gravy train. But artistically, it just wasn't in them to just keep doing that. So, but I mean, for the most part, I think this record's mission was more to kind of like a set a mood or create a vibe
Right.
rather than it was with like songwriting per se. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
feel, which is fine. I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, you can't just keep doing the same thing. I totally um, respect that. I just remember liking it more when it came out, though. Um, 94. So, I mean, I was in college. I was 20. Um, but I think at the time, I was also listening, coming home at like 2 a.m. and still hanging out with my friends. So at that point, at 2 a.m. in the morning, when we're still
That
hanging
would
out,
make sense. That would totally make
it's a
sense.
great
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
When you get home from work and you're exhausted on a Wednesday night, it's hard to jump
Right.
into Hot Trip to Heaven.
Right. Right. I can see
Um,
that. Yeah.
but I mean, I mean, I think it's more of like a social record that you listen to with like a group of like a group of people. Like, it's there for like a gathering and for you to play it in the back rather than to like soak in the lyrics and the melodies and stuff. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of listening. Um, but the only thing that I will say about Hot Trip to Heaven that it is, I guess, a little bit not good is that it's the only record that when you put it on of theirs that you can tell what year it was released as soon as you start listening to it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it has 1994 kind of written on it. Whereas you put on any of the other Love and Rockers records, they're pretty timeless and you can't really,
Right.
like you can't go, it could be 1974, 84, 94. It doesn't, you know what I mean? And those
Right.
albums would sit right into that.
Right.
This one I just kind of think works for that time period. I respect the concept. I just I really credit them for having the guts to do it at the time. But I mean, I guess for me, I think Voodoo Baby and Trip and Glide, I thought were the two best songs in the album. Not coincidentally, they were also the shortest because there was a lot of longer songs on that album.
Uh-huh.
But a good album nonetheless. And but like I said, one of them's got to be on the bottom, so I picked that one.
Right. Well, that is actually my number 6 is Hot Trip to Heaven. So
Okay.
that's my 6. And I didn't think it wasn't bad. It was it was like it kind of had this trippy feel to it. Like it's
Yeah.
something like this psychedelic-ish kind of almost like a Dead Can Dancey with a little techno-y kind of mix at times. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. It's probably not something I would like listen to regularly, but like I can see it like, yeah, I could see that. I don't really get home at 2 a.m. anymore. So that's not really my thing. But if I did, I could totally see why you would listen to it at
Yeah.
2 a.m. Yeah, but it was okay. It was but but just not my those two are again, they're not bad. They're just not my favorites compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah, same. So, and with that, my number 6 is Lift in 1998. I thought this one was a little bit more song oriented than Hot Trip to Heaven was.
Right.
There's some shorter songs, some more hookier stuff. Holy Fool and Too Much Choice. Party's Not Over was a nice, groovy, grimy,
Mhm.
nocturnal track. I just feel like, I mean, okay, so they revisited the electronic elements that they did from Hot Trip, which was 2 albums before this. But this time I think it was just a little bit more song structure, and I just thought it was a little bit easier listen to, for like a layman who's somebody who's not really familiar with trip hop or any of that kind of electronic kind of stuff. And had Resurrection Hex was pretty cool, because if you listen closely, I don't know if you noticed it. Did you hear all the Bauhaus samples in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of neat, which was funny because as soon as the album was released, the Bauhaus got back together. They never even, I don't think they even toured for this album. Is that true? I gotta look that up. But the reunion happened like as soon as they were done with this record. So which was kind of, I think it kind of gets lost in the shuffle because they didn't really
Right.
record it probably the way they really wanted to. But yeah, so Lift is my number 6. So
All
I guess
right.
now we get into the really, really good stuff. So
Yes, absolutely. So, and again, so I list my number 5 as Sweet FA, and
okay.
it's a good album. It's just different than like some of the stuff that they did before, which I like because it's nice that they were eclectic. They're trying something different. It's much more mellow. It's one of the songs I absolutely love is Use Me. I just absolutely love that song. The
Good song.
vocals, the background music, it's like eerie, melodic, the acoustics in the backdrop, just a awesome freaking song. They had a couple of good songs. I like the Sweet FA song.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It has a little acoustic trippy mix. Judgment Day, that's a cool song. It's got a little groovy kind of 60s sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Natasha, I like, that's a cool song. Like, I just think it was it's different. It reminds me some of the stuff, it's like something like older kind of mixed into it, like from before, I don't know, 60s, some old time, but they kind of did their own version of it, and it's still dark, but I just thought it was really cool. And the vocals are really neat. They have like this like mesmerizing, hypnotic kind of a feel to it. And I thought it was a good album.
Yep. Cool. Very cool. So I get a little bit of a controversial pick at number 5, but so let me preface this by saying I love all the rest of these albums.
Right, absolutely.
And you could pretty much just throw them up in the air and wherever they land, I'd be totally happy with wherever they land in here. But so with that, I'm going to go with number 5 is going to be the self-titled album, Love and Rockets from
Okay.
1989. I love this album. It's much more raucous than the album before it, Earth, Moon, Sun. It's got a lot of really heavy, big stompers, like glam rock stomping songs like No Big Deal and Motorcycles, awesome killer rock track, Jungle Law. But I gotta say, I mean, it's pretty funny. You said you were talking about So Alive, right? And which is an awesome song, still is. I don't care how many times I hear it. I don't care how many
Oh yeah,
times
yeah.
they play it live. It doesn't matter. It's a great song. It's just, imagine if Mark Bolan from T-Rex had lived in the 80s, if he survived. Exactly what I would imagine him doing, would be doing So Alive. But I just thought it was funny because it was a huge hit song. I didn't even know. Did you know it reached number 3 on the singles charts in the States?
When I was doing this research, I saw that. I
I
didn't
didn't
know.
know it was that big of a hit. I mean, I didn't pay much attention to the charts by that point, but that's crazy. I mean, I didn't, but imagine all those people who just knew So Alive and bought the record and got home and listened to it and goes, what the hell? Everything else on there is just so nasty and like,
Yep.
it's so not radio friendly. I mean, No Big Deal was kind of a hit, but the rest of the stuff is just so off the wall, compared to your normal pop fan who would be buying this for, the hit
Right. So
single.
Alive. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
their heads must have exploded. Either they shocked a bunch of people or they just made a bunch of people a lot more cooler than they were before they bought that record.
And my guess
Um,
is they don't probably care one way or another, like what you thought
no,
about it.
yeah,
They're like,
no, no,
whatever.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but it was awesome when we went to see them last week. They opened with I feel speed. I can't believe they opened with that. It's so it's like just a deep track. It wasn't like a super rocker, but it set the mood for the night. It was such a great way to open the show. And Bound for Hell is a great song. It kind of has like this evil Bob Dylan
Hmm.
thing to it. It's like subterranean blue. You can almost kind of see them like standing there with the
Right.
cards, like throwing the lyric. Like, it would be black, and they would be black cards, by the way, of course. I love this album. It changed a lot of things for me when I got it. And oh, and Rock and Roll Babylon,
Awesome song.
awesome.
Yeah.
It just they really laid into like the 70s glam rock on this album, which I love, and
Mhm.
I know they love too. But that Rock and Roll Babylon, that could have been on any one of the early Bowie albums, T-Rex albums, even kind of a little bit of Elton John. I don't know if I'm insulting them by saying that, but like with the string, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I mean that in a good way, because what Elton John was doing in that period was good stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm going with Modern Rock is self-titled number 5.
All right. I'm sorry. I was a little surprised, but I'm not really surprised because you never go the way exactly directly that you would think that you would go with something like this.
I
So
can't.
no, because if it was like how I would, because I don't actually know which one you're going to pick, but I knew you wouldn't pick that as your first. I knew it.
Oh, it's number 1. Okay.
No, I
Yeah.
knew that would not be your number one. I knew that,
Okay.
but yeah, you always go a little. You usually have a little bit of a different preference kind of thing, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's the way I roll.
And again, these are all still great albums, so these are all awesome. But Earth, Sun, and Moon, again, different than some of the earlier ones by and it's like it's a mix. They got some of that like trippy kind of stuff going on. They got some dark stuff, acoustic stuff. There's like saxophone going on in there. And at some points had like a punk kind of a feel to it. Some had like this like 50s, 60s sort of vibe. But they had, I love the song Lazy. I just love that song. It's just catchy. It's just cool sound. It's awesome. Mirror People, that's another one. I think that's a fantastic song. They had like the regular, they had the slow version. Awesome. It's like edgy. I like the guitars in it, the vocals, like the whole thing, the lyrics. I just think it's a super cool song across the board. Obviously, No New Tale to Tell. I mean, that's a popular one, but it's still really cool. So maybe that's why.
Never get tired of that. Ever.
It's just awesome. The vocals are fantastic. It's just, yeah, it's just awesome. What else? I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's a great album, so I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It's just there's so many good ones. You have to just rank them. But yeah, it's just a lot of really good ones on there.
Cool. Let's see. Well, for number 4. Now this album and the self-titled one I had is kind of tied.
Okay.
So I went with this one because I feel this album needs more love. I think that it's way better than its fate. And that's Sweet FA. I think this album is fucking awesome. And I think even from the opening track with just the acoustic jam with just, fuck all else.
Fuck all else was the best.
Yeah,
it was the best. It was
right.
so mellow. It's like fuck all else. It
I
just
love
comes
that.
out.
There's a great early 70s spirit to it. And I thought, and Judgment Day. Not only is that a great song, they pulled that out last week too at the show. It's better live than it is on the record.
So good. So good.
Yeah. They're still doing that. They're still playing songs better live than they are on the record. If you haven't seen them, go see them.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I think the song reverts more, back to the guitar and acoustic drums work up after, the experimental Hot Trip to Heaven a couple of years before. I've read some spotty reviews on this. I don't know what the fuck they were listening to. but this record is killer. Very different mix on the vocals on this album. They're very known for having like those airy, reverbery vocals
Yeah.
on all their records, and this one has a very dry mix on the vocals, which gives it a much different sound. Even it makes the guitar sound dirtier, if that makes any sense. And I think it's also more, so if you know if the self-titled was like their big glam rocky kind of foray, I think this one is more, it sounds more New York, which is odd, right? Because being a supposedly British band, but I feel more like a Velvet Underground type of thing
Yeah.
going on here, rather than like T-Rex or Bowie or anything like that, or even the punk. I mean, it's more like a really gritty underground sound to it, and I really like it. Hearing a Hammond B3 on a Hammond B3 organ on a Love and Rockets record, I think, I mean, that was on Fever, I think. That is surprisingly cool, and it surprisingly works. Also, if I think they just put out there's a companion to Sweet FA recently. It's called My Dark Twin. It has like all the outtakes. And I
Huh.
was listening to that. That is fantastic. Also, if you haven't heard it, go check it out, or even get it, because it's out on vinyl too. Has like leftover tracks and different mixes from the songs that were on Sweet FA. But back to the album, Pearl, David J's little ballad. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful song. I wish they would add this to some of the live sets, because it's so good, and I just think it's surprising that it wasn't a single, and I don't see it in like their sets, like when they're playing live. But I don't know if anyone hears this, you want to add it to like some of the shows before the tour is done. I think they said this might be it for them, which is
Oh, they
crazy.
got to keep going. Yeah, they have to keep going.
Yeah, especially, I mean, they're still at the top of the game. Keep going, make more records, make more records. We'll redo the ranking if you make more. Sad and Beautiful World is awesome. Natasha is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
This record, I think, just deserved a better fate. It didn't sell well, especially here in the States. I don't know how it did over in the UK. And I think because I think Sweet Love Hangover was a minor hit here, because I remember hearing it in like, when I went to record stores and bars and stuff back then. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this record an 8. I mean, it's really good. I mean, so anyone, if you're just a casual fan and you've only heard like the first few and you haven't heard Sweet FA, go hear it, go listen to it. Very, 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 very good album.
Yeah.
Number 3.
All righty. Well, that for me is the self-titled album. And again, great album. If it weren't for So Alive, that's what drew me into Love and Rockets to begin with. So I have to pay homage to that. But it's still a super cool song. Really just a cool song. I also, they're probably one of my favorites on that album is No Big Deal. It's just it's edgy. It's like a little hard, but not too hard. It's just a great, awesome song. Bound for Hell, the Jungle Law. Oh, Jungle Law is awesome. Like the lyrics of that are so cool. Like it's just like
I don't think I've ever, like, at least not since I bought it. Like, I bought it on CD in '89, and I don't remember ever sitting down and like reading the lyrics to it. I was actually reading along with. Awesome.
It's awesome. This whole struggle to survive and getting ahead, and it's just again kind of raw and dirty, and
the whole album is that way. The whole album is gritty like that.
It is, and but I was just reading that like on Spotify when I could see all the lyrics and stuff. I was like, oh man, these lyrics they're pretty Yeah, they're pretty
Mhm.
raw. So that is,
Mhm.
but it's awesome song. Bound for Hell, the great song. Kind of got that cool, like little bluesy feel, the bike song. And I like Dreamtime too. It's got like an eerie, kind of dark feel to it.
Oh,
So
yeah. And I think it wasn't that was a, was that the B-side for, So Alive? Or that
uh,
was the B-side for either So Alive or, No Big Deal. I forget which one it was, but yeah, that is a great track.
it's really, really
Yeah.
cool, really eerie and neat. So I mean, there's just a ton of great songs on that album. So but yeah, that would be my number three.
My number 3 is gonna be Seventh Dream of a Teenage Heaven,
Hmm.
the debut from 1985 is an absolute classic, one of the best debut albums of the 80s for sure. It has only 7 songs, some of them a little longer than others, but there's zero filler on this album. Not 1 minute is wasted. Um, they definitely enjoyed spreading their psychedelic wings on this record. um, it is just so trippy and fun, and it has everything that you want in a freak out record. If There's a Heaven Above is a excellent poppy, trippy opener. Excellent Mick Ronson like solo by Daniel Ash at the end of that one. Private Future starts out as a Sergeant Peppery jam, and it turns into like a Sid Pink Floyd freak out at the end.
Yeah.
The Game is, again, I'm going to say Sid Barrett again because there's absolutely no way that they weren't listening to him when they wrote The Game. But I love that song. I love it. I love that riff. I love that it's so spaced out and so trippy and dark. And it's like 4 notes. That's all it takes. Sometimes it's not about the amount of notes, it's what you did with them. And that is a perfect example of that. The title track, love the Ebo work by Daniel. He's an absolute master. When the Minutes Drag, always great live. It was great live the other night. Um, it's just a classic. I don't care that it's 8 minutes long. It feels like 3 minutes every time I listen to it. I never even notice it. Saudade is one of the most beautiful instrumental tracks. I never skip over it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's like almost 5 minutes long. There's no lyrics. I don't care. It's that good. I don't even think about it as an instrumental. I just think of it as a great song. This album is a classic, and that is number 3. It's not even like number 1 or 2.
I know,
That's
because
how great they are. So, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven, number 3.
and that my number two is Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. So,
Yep.
and again, kind of like what you said. Actually, one of my favorite songs on that album is "Haunted When the Minutes Drag." I
Yeah.
just love. It's dark. It's just the lyrics. It's just the vocals. Oh my god, just the something about the sound. And then at the end, like the little thing if you're when you're sad and all that stuff. It's just such a
Yeah.
great song. Dog
It's
End of a
so long.
Day.
It's
It's
like
so long,
yeah,
but you don't
it's
even
like their
care. You don't
stairway.
care. You don't
It's
care.
like
You're like, keep going, keep
it's
going.
like the Love and Rockets stairway.
And then so I like that they do that with a couple songs. Like they start out one way, and it's almost like the song takes on a little new version towards the end.
Yeah.
Versus like most songs are like, here it is, and there's like little refrain. No, it like takes on this whole little spin at the end that's different. I'm like,
Oh
cool.
yeah. But there's one thing with Love and Rockets, just because the song starts out that way, don't get too used to that. Don't get too used to that in that groove at the beginning, because it ain't staying that way. Very
No,
rare.
it's so it kind
Very
of
rare.
keeps you going with it, and it's like, oh my gosh, and it's just so like, oh,
It's exhilarating. It's awesome.
it really is. I Dog End of a Day Gone By. I think that's a
Yeah,
fantastic song. The little distortions, the with the guitar, the vocal, it's just awesome. I think the title track was great. Actually, I was looking up some stuff and I saw a review of it, and they were referring to this album as um the depressed version of the Pet Shop Boys. I was like, okay, I can take that, but it's just got a cool vibe to it.
not where I would have, but I okay, that's fine.
I kind of liked it. I'm like, I like that. I wrote it down.
That's great.
It's dark though. So I also don't usually like instrumental ones, but that's what
Mhm.
that was the last song that they played.
Yeah,
And you called it. We're like, what are they gonna do? And you're like, sauteed and bam. And again, I usually don't like instrumental stuff, especially long ones. And I'm like, oh well, it works. It's acoustic. It draws you in. It's not like it makes you like want to listen to it. And it's just kind of I guess the word with tantalizing was the word that came to mind. It's
yes.
just really, yeah,
Good
it's just
word, good
awesome.
word.
Yeah, but it's just a freaking awesome.
It is.
And that was their first album too, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, how do you come in your first album and it's that like fantastic? Like
Well, you
that's
didn't think too, because I mean, you gotta remember too, I mean, what are they, 24, 25? And at that age, they've already done 4 Bauhaus records,
Bauhaus.
and this first Love, it's just insane.
It's
It's
insane that
insane.
that's their first album. I just
What
can't even
what did
believe
I
that.
do by 24? Nothing I wanna say on here. But yeah, excellent. Love it. Alright, so I guess okay, so here's I had a dilemma. I didn't decide on my number 1 until right before I started here. And, my number 1 and number 2 are both 10s to me. They're both perfect 10s. Um, so I have to go with one or the other. So for number 2, as much as I love it, it's gonna be number 2, and it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I love all of them, and it doesn't really matter. This is just a fun exercise to do. Number 2 is gonna be Earth, Moon, Sun, Earth, Sun, Moon. It's, it's the first Love and Rockets record I actually bought. I got a still sealed copy from a used record store in Philly called Record Castle. He had like these dollar bins, and it was more of like his store was more of like a hard rock metal store. So I think when he got stuff that he didn't know what it was, he just threw it in the dollar bin, Which so when I went there, I went right for the dollar bin because I knew it was going to be like awesome stuff that he didn't know what it was. I think I ended up getting like the whole Smiths discography in there for for $5.
Oh my God. Wow.
And the first one I bought there was the Earth, Sun, Moon. I got it for $1, still sealed, and I went home and I bought it because I saw No New Tale to Tell on 120 Minutes, and I was like, this is pretty different than everything else that's going on, because I think at that time that came out in 87 and I knew the song, but I didn't buy the album until I guess 89 or 90. And at that point I was still, Mr. Hard Rock Metal, you know what I mean? And this is one of my first albums. I mean, I already had, I had Burning from the Inside and by Bauhaus. I had Kiss Me by The Cure and Head on the Door. And I had Juju by the Banshees, and it's a couple of Smiths records. And this was one of the first 10 cool albums that I got, that opened my eyes to some really, really cool music into a different world. And I'll forever be grateful.
I don't know how you remember all of that detail of when you bought every album.
I don't remember anything else. I just remember where I bought my record and who produced what record, how long the song is, and what year it came out. I can tell you that. You want to know what I had for dinner last night? I'm not going to remember. But Mirror People is a very fitting album opener. That song is a blast. It's always fun. It's always fun to hear live. The Light is one of my all-time favorite Love and Rockets tracks. So dark and ominous. I think the whole song is played on an EBow, which for 1987, I think, wasn't it 1987? Not many people were doing that. There's a tad more of a folk influence on this album than the first two, which is cool. It's more like a glam punk folk album.
No, but they
know,
are like that. Or that's how
it
mixed
is. It's a very unique record in their catalog because there's a lot of acoustic songs. Every one of them is beautiful. Here on Earth is one of Daniel's greatest acoustic tracks. Obviously very Bowie-ish, and his sax solo on there makes the whole song. Like you said, Lazy. What a great song.
Yeah.
It's just great shuffle and boogie, you know, Mark Bolan jam. No New Tale to Tell is obviously a classic. Never get tired of it. Waiting for the Flood, very simple. Just waiting for the disco ball to drop. We just the lights all across the room. I'm not sure why, it just seems fitting. I don't know why. This is what I picture. It's like a, you know, a dark room with those lights spinning around. Rainbird is almost like kind of like Paul McCartney and Cat Stevens. You know, it's very different. Whatever it is, I love it. It's great. Telephone is Empty. It's kind of Love and Rockets taking a ride in the Yellow Submarine. It has a nice little Beatles feel to it. Earth, Sun, Moon, the title track, very excellent also. And what, not sure if it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there. Youth, awesome. We Are the Energy. It just says it like 50 times, and it just resonates. It's just an awesome, beautiful song. And not many times where you get through an album, and when the last song is over, you want to start the album over again.
Right.
It's that good because like, every song on there just makes you wanting more. And when Youth is over, I want more. Usually when you listen to a record, like, okay, good, that was good, that's enough. Next, you know what I mean? That's that album. I can't get enough of. Just put it in my vein. And number 2, Earth, Sun, Moon.
Cool.
I'll probably have the graphic up on the screen anyway, but there we go. So, what's your number 1 then? It looks like we might have the same.
I think I can't believe we may tie for the number 1. Wow. So obviously, which is behind you, I believe, is Express.
Yep.
So was that the number 2? There was the number 2 album, right?
Yes, it was the second album.
And I just can't believe even for a second, because the first one was so great, and then it's just like, oh my God, it was like, I think that was like, this album is just, there's nothing on the album I don't like. Like, it's just cool. It's like, it's got this psychedelic kind of feel, but it's edgy and it's dark all at the same time. Yep. The vocals are just out of this world. You know, my favorite, I mean, there's so many great songs on this. My favorite is actually Holiday on the Moon. Oh my God, I just love that song. And like the lyrics, like, you can't get a suntan on the moon, but I wouldn't mind a holiday there. It's like,
yes,
just so goth.
You know what's a funny thing about that song is I had the vinyl, but originally I bought, you know, I got a hold of this later on, but when I first bought it, I bought it on cassette. The cassette has Holiday on the Moon on it, but the vinyl version, the original UK version, Holiday on the Moon isn't on it.
Oh, interesting.
Which I was like, so when I play the vinyl, I'm listening to it, I'm like, what the hell happened to Holiday on the Moon? But oh God, great song.
Such a great song. And that's some of the ones too, because you'll see that on the Spotify. Like, this is the USA version, the UK version. So
right.
I can't 100% say what's right, but This one said for the USA mix, it had Ball of Confusion. I don't know, but that
Yeah, I think it was on the original US release, but I don't, I think this is the UK tracking, because it was, Ball of Confusion was released as their first single, I think, before the album came out. But here,
okay.
we live in the States, so according to us, Ball of Confusion's on Express. So
All right, there you go. There you go. And I actually never heard the original before, so I went back and listened to the
you
Temptations
never heard
version.
the Temps version?
No, I never heard the Temptations version. No.
Oh,
So I
wow.
just thought it was I just thought it was a Love and Rocket song.
That's awesome.
That shows you what kind of world I live in. And
Mm,
but I like the Love and Rockets version better. I mean, the original is obviously good, great, but the Love and Rockets one, they put their own little edge to it, and it's
absolutely.
awesome. It's All in My Mind is awesome. It's actually a
Uh,
fun song, like compared to like Bauhaus. It's like, which is great, but it's like this song is actually really fun. It's catchy. It's got this great beat. You just are like, woo, you know. Yeah, you just can't like get it out of your head. Like it just sticks with you.
yep.
But there's just, I don't know, it could be Sunshine is a super cool song, and it's just again something different. The sound effects, I'm like, oh, this is like so different. Yin and Yang, the Flower Pot Man is another cool song that's a little faster, the guitar, a little punky feel to it. But I just think the whole album is just like insanely great, and I like everything on it.
Yep. 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 It's my number one too. This album is a perfect 10. There's nothing on it that shouldn't be there. There's no down spots. Every song is great. Um, the band adds a bit more glam rock to the psych rock that was just on the first album. Shortened their ideas into well-crafted pop ditties. Pop for Love and Rockets, not pop for the
Right,
rest of the
right.
world. This album, okay, so I think Express is, if someone comes up to you and says, what is Love and Rockets? You just do this. Here you go.
Yeah,
You put
yeah,
this record on. I mean,
yeah.
if all of their records, if you had to pick one to let someone know who they are, what they sound like, what they're about, this is the album to give them.
Yeah.
And I could be out of line in saying this, but I think they think that too, considering the fact that they played almost 7 songs off of it at the show last week.
Right.
So, but I mean, let's talk about it a little bit here. Let's see. We've got It Could Be Sunshine, perfect opener, has a great Roxy Music type sax solo in it, and then it just takes off midway through with that nasty distorted guitar. Kundalini Express, phenomenal. Such a dirty guitar riff, great show staple. And the ending of the great layered guitar work by Daniel at the end, so cool. All in My Mind, the Love and Rockets classic. I never get tired of it. I just don't. Great slice of psychedelic pop, from the jangly acoustic guitars all the way down to the floating EBO strains and the great harmony vocals between David and Daniel. Love it. Life in Lorelei, another great track.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, huge glam rock foot stomper. Love Me is a track that I've always gravitated to. Kind of like I said, we were just talking about that whole Love and Rockets and Bauhaus influencing the whole shoegaze thing that came a few years later, and this is a perfect example of that. Great song. They performed it last week. I can't tell you again how great the show was. If you're thinking about it and you like them and you haven't seen them, even if you have seen them, go see them. And the album ends on the awesome American Dream. It just has a awesome 70s sound to it, broadened through the filter of an 80s rock production, and it is awesome. Every song on this album is great. I just, was so confused when I realized that Holiday on the Moon is not on the final version of the album. Totally confused me. But yeah, that is a perfect 10. Love and Rockets have 2 perfect 10 records, which is most bands don't even have 1.
No. No, this was actually a really fun one to do because it was such good music to listen to.
It was.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I got other ones I got to do. I mean, I have with Mr. Brian, we have Iron Maiden coming up next week, which, you know, is a totally different vibe than what I've just been doing.
Yeah.
But we'll dig into that. That'll be we'll do that with Mr. Iron Maiden himself, Brian. And this was awesome. I'm not sure how I'm going to stop listening to these records. I got to find.
I can't. I think I have to keep listening. But then after going between going to the show and seeing them live and then doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many fantastic songs. And I will also say my dog Fiona loves them too. So she lets me know if she likes or doesn't like it music, and liked every single thing with except maybe Lift, but other than that, she liked every single she wasn't too into that, but other than that, she was really into all Love and Rockets. She was all chill. So that's a good, that is a seal of approval.
But I do have to say, my 1 through 5, all of those would be most bands' number 1s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. They're all good.
There we go. But there we go. That was
Alrighty.
That's our ranking of Love and Rockets. And what you tell us what you think. Do you think that we are close? Are we batshit crazy? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we have a lot more content coming up. And talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Total love fest.
Yeah, a little different than with Danzig. We had some of this thrash stuff.
So we got to think about what we're going to do next. I guess, should we do The Cure since?
Oh, well, that one's going to take a little long. That'll take a little longer because we got to. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. How many albums? You'll know that off the top of your head.
There's 13. Ziggy,
Okay.
How many studio records are there by The Cure?
From Fandom.com. The Cure have released 13 studio albums.
Oh my God! Of course you got
13.
that. Of course. Okay.
Well, how do I know that off the top of my head?
I don't know. And all these producers. I'm like, how do you know these producers? I'm like, I never paid attention to a producer in my life. Like,
Definitely 13. Definitely. What's that?
Yeah, you know a little too many details, Al. So many details of all this music stuff. Like this one played guitar and this one sang on this one. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was released in this year, and on this day when I was like eating a grilled cheese, I was listening. Like it's like, oh my gosh, everything with the music. You remember?
But it was a ham sandwich. It wasn't grilled cheese.